groups die of DU. Patriotism is 10,000% pediatric cancer rate increases. Patriotism is the honeybees dying. Patriotism is open borders. Patriotism is the Justice Department shipping guns into Mexico. Patriotism is the government taking foster children and giving them pesticides till they die. New York Daily News, no one gets in trouble. Patriotism is having the TSA grope your wife while she cries, and if you speak out, the police come and bludgeon you. That's freedom! Freedom is paying the private Federal Reserve to the IRS. Freedom is imploding markets and our factories shutting down and being shipped overseas. Freedom is lead paint. Okay. I take you now to our guest, James Lane, the director, and Holland, Vandennieuwenhof, writer-producer, here to discuss it. You hear me ranting here, gentlemen, because it's not fun having to get on air and talk about these murderers, but it's got to be done. It's not fun putting myself in harm's way, but I'm in greater harm's way by not confronting them head on. Gentlemen, we're going to break in about 5-6 minutes. You've got the floor for now. Tell us the key points of why Oklahoma City is important and what the smoking guns are.
Thank you for having us on, Alex. I think for us, or for me personally, the biggest smoking gun was the additional ordnance that were inside the building. The official story states that the truck bomb was the sole source of destruction at the AP Murrah building the morning of April 19th, 1995. We've got Jane Graham, you were speaking about her earlier. Her, VZ Lawton, other people that were actually in the building that survived said that the building was coming down. It was shaking. Some of them thought it was an earthquake. Said it was coming down 8 to 10 seconds before the glass blew in. The FEMA report says that the blast wave from that truck was traveling at 1,700 feet per second. That right there disproves that that was the sole explosive.
And since they won't release the videotapes that would show exactly what happened in front of the Murrah building, we have to go on the science of the matter. Now, despite the 24 eyewitness accounts that place McVeigh with another person in that Ryder truck in front of the Murrah building, one can always make the argument, which they have, that somehow all these 24 witnesses were mistaken. But one cannot deny the science, and the demonstrable examples have been used to demonstrate the science. The Air Force actually conducted a simulation of the Oklahoma City bombing at Eglin Air Force Base. They set up a test structure. It was a 3-story, very simple slab structure with no support columns. And they actually constructed an ANFO bomb according to how the FBI and Tim McVeigh said it had been constructed. A dozen barrels, 55-gallon barrels packed with ANFO. What they found was that each barrel acted as a separate bomb, and that most of the explosive force was canceled, and whatever remained went straight up. It did nothing to their test structure. So they actually constructed a stronger, more powerful single 4,000-pound bomb and exploded that outside their structure to see the results. What they found was that their test structure, much less robust than the Murrah building, which had been designed with bomb resistance in mind, suffered much less damage from a more powerful bomb than what was supposedly used in Oklahoma City. So then they tested the hypothesis of explosives inside the building. So they actually put bombs inside their test structure, blew it up, and recorded the results. The final conclusion of the Wright Armament Laboratory out of Elgin Air Force Base is that there were bombs inside the building. So you have one branch of government saying that there were bombs inside the building, yet the spokesman for the government says that the ANFO in the truck bomb was the sole cause of destruction. They can't even get their story straight.
We know that ANFO was not even in the truck, because the hallmark of an ANFO bomb, ammonium nitrate and fuel oil, is a nitric gas cloud. Trentadue was on the scene within minutes, pulling Tom Hall out of the building and saving 7 other people that day. He had no problem with respiration, neither did any of the survivors. Every time that an ANFO bomb has been exploded, the first responders are normally hospitalized from the inhalation of nitric gas. That was not there, that wasn't present at the Murrah building that day. It calls into question what was actually in the truck.
And you got the ATF there seconds after demanding people patch them up, that they were on the 9th floor. You've got the ATF detonating months before their own Ryder truck, testing it out. You've got McVeigh. You've got the feds running Elohim City. I mean, the list just goes on and on.
Well, the Oklahoma City story, the official story is so easy to disprove. It's one of the most, in fact, I say my position is that they would be very hard pressed to pull something off as sloppy as Oklahoma City these days, because of the dissemination of information made possible by the information revolution. In 1995, the internet was still in its infancy, so we didn't see the rapid spread of information that you see these days. If they tried to pull something like Oklahoma City off these days, it would just blow up right in their face.
Well, that's another good point. They have trouble doing another 9/11 or another Oklahoma. Take the 7/7, wheeling the crazy drugged guy, clearly drug witnesses said, Mutalib onto the plane, And then my listeners were there, happened to be lawyers and smart, said the government got him on the plane. And then it turned out the government did get him on the plane. I mean, the system doesn't like the fact that they know our people are watching everywhere now.
Exactly, Alex, and that's why it is important to understand these false flag attacks, the details on them, because whenever you can share this information with your friends and family, you're literally saving lives. You're taking away the false flag terror tool from the toolbox of these people that use this to further their own geopolitical ends.
Gosh, go ahead. Tell us what's coming up when we come back.
Well, we were at a street action today at the Oakland City Bombing Memorial, passing out 500 copies of the movie. We can tell you about that after the break.
Good. And then coming up, Jane Graham, excerpts of her powerful bombshell interview with James Lane and myself last night. It's all coming up. We're in the face of murdering terrorists. Will you join us with pride, honor, and courage, or will you bow to them? All right, we went to break, and the writer and producer of A Noble Lie, Holland Vandennieuwenhof, was telling us about a street action they had at the site of the globalist stage Reichstag event in Oklahoma City, at the site of the false flag, self-inflicted staged wound to demonize the American people and bring in the police state we're now witnessing with highway checkpoints and TSA, secret police now on the streets of Houston and other cities. Tell us about the street action.
Yes, we've long promised ourselves that one day we would pass out copies of the movie at the memorial on the anniversary, because every year at the anniversary, at the memorial, they celebrate the lie, and they try to remember the lives of those 168 dead people with a lie, not with truth and justice in their hearts. The politicians get up there and they make their speeches, and they celebrate that.
It's about the institutionalization of the lie. I mean, they passed legislation saying that the official story
They feed vampirically each year off the children that their bosses murdered.
Exactly. So we went out there today. We are Change, Oklahoma, and we set up outside both gates of time with teams on either side of the street, and we had donated 500 free copies of the movie to be passed out today, and every single person who went in there and went out got a copy of A Noble Lie, a total antidote to the line of propaganda that they were being fed inside the memorial.
One thing that was really strange this year that we've never seen before, I mean, we're out there most years, was the Homeland Security presence.
It wasn't there last year. There was a Homeland Security mobile command center there.
Massive.
They had lined up the SWAT team in front of one of the gates of time as the ceremony let out, which I think is an abomination.
Well, criminals always return to the scene of the crime. I mean, this is a part of sucking every bit of the murdered children they can.
And Dog and Pony Show, because remember, Alex, a third of this audience are cops. They're all carrying guns. No one is going to do anything there. I mean, they're on duty, off duty, but you don't need a Homeland Security SWAT team.
No, it's the feds are going to be on your streets keeping you safe when they blow your buildings up.
They even had a mobile command center, a huge thing. It probably cost $250,000. But the thing is, the museum memorial, they have a command center upstairs. They don't need a mobile command center on site.
Well, of course they don't need it. It's all to make us think there's a real threat, and there is one. They're the terrorist.
But we did manage to actually get a few copies to some of those folks and people that actually work at the memorial.
They were asking for it. Some of the people working there, working in the memorial, were asking about the movie and wanted copies. Head of security, actually. Maybe we should say that on air, but yeah, he got a copy. Asked for one.
Well, that's good, because they need to choose whose side they're on.
Exactly. And so, I mean, we're not just, providing this information to, the general public that was going in there, victims, family members, survivors, et cetera. I mean, these are the people that actually are part of the institutionalization of the lie. I was at the Ground Zero last September 11th for the memorial there, and I had my We Are Change Oklahoma shirt on. I get a gentleman comes up. He's like, "Oh, Oklahoma." He goes, "I'm from the museum there in Oklahoma City." "Oh, really? What are you doing here?" "I'm helping set up the museum in New York City." So they're taking everything that they've learned here, moving it to New York, and you see the same thing where they're passing legislation saying the official story of 9/11 will be taught in the schools. I mean, if it's not, if people, like you and us and everybody out there listening doesn't get out there and get this information out, we're gonna lose because we're up against a machine, But what they cannot defeat us if we are actually out there having those one-on-one conversations, showing.
That's right. That's right. Know that there are millions of other patriots in low-intensity Infowar conflict at point-blank range, talking and educating and giving business cards and DVDs and putting it on Access TV. We can swarm the enemy, and we will do it. Here's an example. Aaron and I noticed about 3 years ago a meme in TV that Bill Gates is a superhero trying to give kids shots. And then we noticed suddenly all over the news they were calling him a superhero. And we discovered that he's paying ABC, hundreds of newspapers, CNN, you name it. They're paying to have him as a superhero. And now they're going to have a comic book where he's a superhero to the kids. And anyone that doesn't take the vaccines is the bad guy. So, I mean, imagine the propaganda. And here's Forbes. Why Bill Gates is a hero, because this is a terror attack, these shots. And Donald Trump is a zero. Donald Trump, and look, they talk to you like you're an idiot. Look, why Bill Gates is a hero and Donald Trump is a zero. Forbes, Matthew Herper. And my point here is, we're going to go to break and come back and talk about this and more in the next long segment, is that they're panicking. They're panicking that people have got the Bill and Melinda Gates documents, the Rockefeller documents, where they talk about sterilizing through the vaccines. They're panicking that they're learning Bill and Melinda Gates are giving people real polio in the shots as a cover story. They're panicking, and it's coming out that again, that even Donald Trump is saying the shots are hurting people and we need to stop it. They are panicking because they've almost got us where they want us, where, you know, 1 in 50-something kids have it instead of 1 in 25,000, and they want to get those kids, and they don't want it. We're at the tipping point of saving those kids, and they're very upset as the vampire pigs they are. So we're going to come right back on the other side. I mean, these ghoul demons know we've got them. And, I mean, we're just like, it's like arm wrestling. We have got them. The momentum is going in our direction, and we just got to take that gift of anger and slam their fist through the floor. But there's not a question if we're going to try to defeat the New World Order. We're coming. Nothing's going to stop it, and that's the way it is. We'll be right back. Stay with us. Got about 8-9 minutes of an hour-plus interview I did with Jane Graham last night coming up here, and I want to keep our guests a little bit in the next hour and open the phones back up. I know we've got loaded phones. I'd like to go to those that are holding, but they won't be on Oklahoma City, and then get to people that are calling about Oklahoma City. But going back to you guys, James, you kick it back off with other points you think are important to make. 17 years later, after Bill Clinton told USA Today he owed his re-election to the OKC bombing.
Well, an interesting thing has happened here in Oklahoma. Last year, legislation was passed that says if your family member's death was declared a suicide, you can now dispute that. And so we're hoping to leverage some of this momentum to get a new investigation into the death of Officer Terrence Yakey. I know you spoke about this case very many times on your show, Alex, and thank you for that. Terry Yakey was a police officer that was on the scene within minutes that day, saved 8 people's lives. His death was declared a suicide. He had multiple lacerations on his arms, on his neck. There was so much blood in the car that they said that you could dip it out with a ladle. And we're supposed to believe that he dragged himself, because there was rope marks or whatever, there was grass in his wounds, dragged himself a mile away and shot himself at a downward angle through the top of his head, coming out his jaw with a small caliber weapon at a far enough distance that it didn't leave any powder burns. The sheriff's department is there. They looked for an hour to try to find the weapon. They can't find it because it was federal property.
By the way, most pistols will leave powder burns at even 3 feet. So somebody was far away, probably 6-7 feet away, and shot him in the head.
Yeah.
And he was on his knees.
Yeah, and now, he made a phone call before this happened to a friend of his. He said he was going to mini storage, and as soon as he shakes these feds that were following him, they would meet up and have a meal.
He had been followed by the FBI before. He knew exactly who was following him.
And there were 2 boxes of documents in the back of his car when the sheriff's department arrived. By the time it hits the impound lot, it doesn't make it into inventory. There was also